Alright, straight up speculation today, but this is probably the closest I've gotten to non-satire on this channel, not counting my Marvel theories. Like, this is the most non-satire FNAF theory yet. I think I did it. I think I solved Michael Afton. Things were lining up in my mind, so we're just rolling with it. So, it's time I dip my feet into the metaphorical potato salad that is FNAF theories once more. I'm also trying to get this video out as soon as possible because as a small channel, if any of the big FNAF-tubers come to the same conclusion as I, it could look like I'm trying to copy them or something. So if any big FNAF-tubers like MatPat or John FNAF happen to come to the same conclusions, that is completely coincidental. I don't want to be in an Illuminati situation.
Plagiarism.
So, all cards on the table here. I am writing this script on Thursday, the 3rd of August, 2023, and the video should be up on Sunday, the 6th, 3 days from now. Now, my analytics say that only about 20% of you are still sticking around at this point. So, I'm gonna hit y'all with my conclusion first, and then explain myself, and we'll see if that works. Okay. Just like Margaret Thatcher, Michael Afton never existed. Alright, hear me out. But first, if you like my content, you should subscribe. Alright, so yesterday, Wednesday, August 2nd, MatPat uploaded another Ruin lore hunting playthrough to his stream channel GT Live. Now, as an avid fan, I watched it. So, he got that hidden ending where the Mimic is dressed up in the various costumes, calling back to the story The Mimic from the Tales from the Pizzaplex book Nexi. MatPat points out that the costumes, specifically the lion, the elephant, and the clown outfit that the elephant wears, are all things found in a circus, and that combined with the scooper, the plush babies, and the opening to the Help Wanted 2 trailer all point back to Sister Location. And that is where his train of thought stops. So, I got thinking. Scott and Steel Wool are clearly trying to get us to look back at Sister Location, and Scott has gone on record to say, which all of you probably know by now, that he clears up misconceptions from past games. Well, at this point, I think we can apply that to the books as well, since they are important to the lore. This whole time, we assumed that Edwin, the character in the books that built the Mimic, was a stand-in for Henry. But, with the Mimic being important, and everything referencing back to Sister Location, I got thinking, what if Edwin is a stand-in for William? What if Elizabeth died first, not the crying child, and Afton built the Mimic to keep the crying child safe? Now, I don't have an answer as to why Circus Baby would exist that early in the timeline, like MatPat was having issues in his latest timeline. But if that is the correct timeline, then there could be huge implications. Afton is shown to be an abusive father. He locks the crying child in his room. He gets upset when he runs away. He even seems to go so far as to dress up in his spring-locked suit, stand outside his son's room, and scare him in an attempt to keep him from presumably going to Freddy's. Well, you know who else dresses up to look like an animatronic and scares the crying child? Michael. What if Michael Afton is the Mimic? It would be easy to build him in Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals, and we never see Michael's room. Michael wouldn't need a bedroom if he was a robot. Throughout the Tales from the Pizzaplex books, there's 3 versions of the Mimic program. So, as Mimic 1, Michael starts by keeping the crying child entertained, but he can't do much when he gets locked in his room. Over time, Mimic 1 sees Afton dress up and scare the crying child, and mimics his actions, like how the Mimic mimics Edwin's rage in the book. By the time of FNAF 4, Mimic 1 is harassing the crying child, which leads to his death. Now, a computer able to learn and apply what it's learned has to have some level of artificial intelligence. We see it happening to Charlie in the original novels. She's a robot with some level of AI to think for herself, and she doesn't even know she's a robot. So, Afton destroys the Mimic, but it can be nearly impossible to completely destroy AI, especially if it has a will to preserve itself. So, Afton thinks he completely destroys the Mimic, but in reality, Mimic 1 preserves a bit of code and separates its good and bad parts, in an attempt to survive. The bad parts, Mimic 1, just lays dormant for now and eventually rebuilds itself around the time of Pizzeria Simulator and Security Breach. The good parts, Mimic 2, is eventually found by William, who rebuilds him into Michael and eventually sends him to Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals. That is why Michael looks so much like his father. William literally built him in his image. Now, at this point, William has been experimenting with Remnant. Oh, sorry. How does Ash do it from GT Live? Hold on, I need to walk to the other side of my room. Remnant! I hope that picked up on the mic. Matt, Pat, Ash, I love you too. Y'all are great. Alright. William has been experimenting with Remnant at this point, but he makes sure Michael knows what to do if something happens to him. Sure enough, the spring lock failure happens, which leads to Michael following the plan and going down to Sister Location, just like what Matt Pat said. Next, Michael, Mimic 2, goes through the events of Sister Location and gets scooped. Since he's an animatronic, he doesn't die, and the Remnant allows him to keep going without an endoskeleton. Now, an issue with this theory is that Michael's skin rots over time, which leads to Ennard leaving. But for all we know, if robot kids like Charlie can realistically bleed, then maybe whatever was used to make the skin and organs are just very realistic and behave realistically. That, or it's actual human skin and organs, and coming from this series, that would not surprise me. So, Michael learns the truth about William and goes to each location, sets the souls free, yada yada yada, then burns in the Pizzeria Simulator fire. That's all pretty common knowledge at this point, or at least we've all agreed that to be canon. But the AI program can't burn. Eventually, Mimic 1 returns and gets sealed in the basement under the Pizzaplex as we hear from Candy Cadet's story. And to keep it locked away, Mimic 2 evolves into Mimic 3, the entity, the glitch bunny in ruin that is trying to prevent us from destroying the security nodes, trying to prevent us from releasing Mimic 1 once more. That is why Michael does not have a page in the character encyclopedia, because there is no Michael Afton. There only ever was the Mimic.